Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. And it's quite interesting. The subject of my adjournment debate is dirty water. It might be appropriate, but I would like to thank Mr. Speaker for having the opportunity to have this debate. And if I may, Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to start by correcting the parliamentary record. In a previous Opposition Day debate on Tuesday the 5th of December, Hansard column 288 to 289 was a debate on water quality. I said that athletes fell ill from swimming in waters contaminated with E. coli, and we know the source of the problem. Subsequently, in a letter dated the 11th of January 2024, Heidi Mottram CBE, who is the Chief Executive of Northumbrian Water, said my statement was factually incorrect. I'm advised by Heidi Mottram CBE, and I'm quoting from a letter, the UK Health Security Agency, the UKHSA, investigated the cause of illness in participants of the World Triathlon Championship Series in Sunderland, reporting in August 2023 with their preliminary findings. They found that 19 of the 31 of those affected had evidence of norovirus, the norovirus infection, while the remaining samples either tested negative or were found to be positive for other infections, and they included sapovirus, astrovirus and rotavirus. No evidence of E. coli, that's 0157-STEC, was found, which can cause severe gastrointestinal illness. 4 other samples of other E. coli strain were found, but it was not possible to link its presence with the participation in the triathlon, and these strains can be carried naturally in the gut. The UK HSE report concludes that the predominance of norovirus makes it the most likely explanation of illness in the participants. I'm happy, in the interest of fairness, to share these comments by the Northumbrian Water Chief Executive. However, the Environment Agency sampling at Roker Beach on Wednesday the 26th of July, 3 days prior to the event, showed 3,900 E. coli colonies per 100 mils of water, which is almost 40 times higher than a typical reading. I'll give way to my honourable friend.
Can I commend the Honourable Gentleman for Easington for bringing this forward? And he's right about the water pollution in East Durham. He's also right to underline the issues of the medical circumstances as well. I also represent an enormous coastline with a fishing and tourism sector that is highly reliant on this sector. The issue of water pollution is vital in terms of an impact on our environment, as well as a direct impact on livelihoods. Does the Honourable Gentleman agree that government support is imperative to deal with small pockets of pollution before they turn into large-scale environmental crises and medical problems that he referred to? And for that to happen, it really takes funding and a government initiative to make it happen.
I thank my honourable friend for that intervention. My personal belief is that the privatised water companies have more than sufficient resources to address the issues if they're prioritised infrastructure repair work and did the job that we as customers pay them to do. I'd like to point out, and I'm sure my honourable friend, the member for Strangford, will be more than familiar with this. And in previous debates we've heard about correlation and causation. You know, what one's a kind of a coincidence and one is a direct link between one event and another. So that the samples that I referred to that were 39 times above the average level, they were not in the body of the water that was used for the swim. That's absolutely correct. So I'm sure it's only a coincidence that a body of water near the swim event had high levels of E. coli that were detected. There's no such thing as tidal movements, is there? I don't know if we have them in Northern Ireland. There's no such thing as prevailing winds that would move a large body of E. coli in an area into into the swim area. I want to refer to the comments of the Australian triathlete Jake Birtwistle, who said, and it's slightly unparliamentary, but he said, I've been feeling pretty rubbish since the race, but I guess that's what you get when you swim in SH1T. The swim should have been cancelled. I hope Mr Birtwistle is reassured by the comments of Northumbrian Water that the high levels of E. coli detected in the waters nearby to the swim and near to the where the event took place had nothing to do with the sickness that he experienced on the day of the racing. I'm also disappointed, Madam Deputy Speaker, that in her letter to me, Heidi Mottram CBE failed to address any of the other issues that were raised in that debate on Tuesday the 5th of December. These included the issues of debt and dividends, investment, and how to regulate water companies to implement some level of corporate responsibility. If I may quote from The Guardian, which studied financial documents from 1990 to 2023 of all of the privatised water companies, they said Northumbrian Water is far from the worst performing water company, which I think makes the following stats really rather worrying. The Guardian found that 19% of Northumbrian Water's consumer bill is spent servicing debt. The debt owed by Northumbrian Water is £3.5 billion. Over the same period, they have paid £3.7 billion in shareholder dividends. I'd like to ask the Minister, does he think this is acceptable? To use debt in order to pay shareholder dividends? As a consumer, I'm outraged, as I'm sure a large number of my constituents are. If this were any other product or service, I could choose to change suppliers. Even in the rail industry, and heaven knows, I've been a critic of poor service, but at least I have the opportunity to highlight to ministers failing train operating companies and to advocate that they should be stripped of their contracts for failing to deliver for the travelling public. Water is unique. I can think of no other essential public service that has been privatised where there's no consumer choice or indeed accountability. Water is a private monopoly. It's a natural monopoly. It is essential for life. It is essential, vital national infrastructure. The government is entitled to impose a strict level of oversight and scrutiny. It will come as no surprise to the Minister, I'm sure, that I personally believe that water should be publicly owned, run in the national interest and deliver public policy goals. I do accept that neither the Conservatives nor my own front bench, for that matter, has an appetite for a publicly owned water industry. So I want to propose an alternative. Number one, end the use of debt to pay for dividends. Number two, prohibit the payment of dividends until debt goals are met. Any profit in this system must go towards water sewerage infrastructure and lowering debt. Water companies are major polluters. While Northumbrian Water is adamant about the Sunderland Triathlon, there is no doubt they are routinely polluting rivers and seas. In my constituency, the Safe River and Seas app shows that there are three sewage overflows in my constituency, from which there were 184 sewage discharge alerts in 2023. 184. That's almost one every third day. Northumbrian Water is not limiting these sewage overflows to rare and extreme weather conditions, but it's a matter of routine disposal of waste. So number three, no dividend payments until clean water targets are met. We need all the resources available going towards improvement, upgrades and new infrastructure. Finally, the promise of privatisation is always about improved standards, lower bills, more consumer choice. But experience suggests the reverse happens. Lower standards, higher bills, no choice. Therefore, the government should put an expectation or indeed a requirement on these private monopolies to deliver for the taxpayer. I'm not telling the government to block profits and shareholder dividends forever, quite the reverse. Private water companies that deliver public policy goals, that's lower consumer bills, and make real profits, not artificial profits funded through debt, could reasonably argue they deserve to be rewarded. But I have no trust or confidence in the private sector to deliver essential public services in the public interest. The list of disasters is there for all to see, and it's far longer than water. It's probation, it's prisons, it's NHS dentistry, it's bus services, it's rail, it's social care, it's Royal Mail, it's Post Office Horizon, it's energy. Everything seems to be broken, and there are no risk rewards for the private sector, where failure doesn't affect the company, with services and contracts handed back even when companies fail to deliver, having already extracted their profits. The government takes a hard line against the poorest in society. There is stringent rules, benefit sanction regimes and limits on social security. However, when it comes to billions of pounds of public contracts, they allow the taxpayer to be exploited, systematically milked, and quite frankly, it's not acceptable. If the law doesn't allow the government to hold failing companies accountable, we must legislate and change the law. I believe we need a corporate responsibility bill, a bill with teeth to ensure the Treasury is the guardian of public money and not a cash cow for corporate greed and irresponsibility. Our water companies are the epitome of corporate greed and irresponsibility. As an industry, they've extracted immense profits while ramping up debt and failing to invest to end the dumping of raw sewage into our rivers and seas. Where is the risk? It doesn't lie with these irresponsible companies. The risk remains with the taxpayer. When a company collapses under the weight of its debt after decades of underinvestment, what happens? Who has to step in? The taxpayer, who is forced to clean up the mess of corporate irresponsibility and get these services up and running to an acceptable standard. Only for a Conservative government to sell them off again. So I'm deeply sceptical. In water, we have a privatisation with companies collecting their rewards and paying out dividends. However, there's no free market. There's a private monopoly. As a consumer, I'm appalled that at the first sight of rain, our local network hits peak capacity and sewage is dumped into our rivers and seas. I want to penalise a company that fails to protect our environment. If your business is clean water, the product of our privatised water companies is defective. The government can continue to back corporate greed over public interest and maintain an indefensible system of privatisation that denies public consumer choice, the ultimate tool of accountability. But I hope the Minister will explain to my constituents how we will deliver a zero waste, zero pollution policy and end the routine dumping of raw sewage into the East Durham Heritage Coastline.